Okay, check the thing.
Didn't work.
Shit! Try it again.
Nope.
God damn it! Wait, check it now!
Oh!
I think we did it!
Apparently that action would have saved the Earth for another 3 minutes and 4 seconds.
Andy, I don't think we're going to be able to save the planet from the horrible demise this giant looking glass is revealing the future holds for us.
I can think of one thing.
You don't mean?
It's worth a shot.
Our ReviewMo, where we review more games than anyone has the chunks, the blood, and the rocks to review at once.
It's just every game we played a significant portion of or beaten, played that came out between when we released our other one of these earlier this year and now, and that we haven't reviewed separately. Is it really that many games?
Oh, you haven't seen the list yet, have you?
No. I like walking in blind and praying you know what you're doing after nearly a decade of ReviewMo.
That's a mistake. Now let's begin.
Ah, look. Another roguelike! Is it any shock these occupy more than half of this list? It shouldn't, because at this point, if it's not a roguelike, it's not a game. Anyway, House of Necrosis is a horror survival roguelike that takes inspiration from the Resident Evil games of old, complete with creepy ambiance, blocky character design, pre-rendered backgrounds, and tank controls.
I've never played a game where this is your main method of controlling your character, but it's one more thing that I thank the Lord is not the standard for how games control now. This is abysmal and confusing and awful. Thank God it's only one of the ways you control your character.
The meat of the game is you as, we'll call her Clara Bluemeadow, going into various environments to stab, smack, and shoot enemies to get to the boss of those areas. You'll collect weapons and serums along the way. Control in here functions on a turn-based grid system. Every movement is a turn, and everything moves when you move. Everything moves when you swipe your weapons in the wrong directions too, James.
Yes, I know.
This all sounds kind of fun, but not when you consider there is no meta progression. There's no carryover to future runs as you level up, collect weapons, and realize the first 4 floors are the only parts of your run where any real healing materials can be found. Quick word of advice, buy a rescue crystal before each run. Do it and sell what you have to. They'll bring you back to a safe room at any point during your run, provided you have 3 turns to waste so it can take effect. You'll keep your weapons, money, and everything else.
At one point, I found a hammer that was powerful, a vest that absorbed damage, and a shotgun that did who knows what. Trouble is, I found myself in a battle with a boss with abilities I both couldn't see or predict because your field of view is shockingly tiny.
And dark.
Fucking dark. This is how I learned 3 things. The Reaper boss in the crypt kills you in 2 hits, autosaving is a thing in this game, and I am absolutely fucking done playing it. The tank controls were bad enough, but losing every single thing to a boss I can't see with attacks that span nearly the entire floor while I have no defense is indefensible. The game's nearly vertical difficulty curve and the fact autosaving is there to fuck you when you die took me right out of the game. I'm uninstalling it as we speak. This thing needs some balance patches.
Highly doubt you played a significant portion of this, but sure, I'll allow you your time.
Thank you. I'm not here to slander Silksong in any way. Sure, it's been a 7-year wait for a mediocre Metroidvania that doesn't do anything new, revolutionary, or even all that interesting. But that's not what I'm here for. Silksong is the perfect example of one thing in gaming. Easy modes should be available in every video game. Silksong is a hard fucking game. No enemy takes less than 3 hits to kill, and deals no less than 2 damage per hit. Even the pissant enemies get their licks in when you least expect it. That's dumb, and there should be ways to tone that down. I would love to experience this game, but the skills required are simply too much for me. Get good shouldn't be the only answer everyone yells at me like it's the answer to the universe. Let me turn down damage, turn up attack power, something to let me experience your 7-year late game. The space has evolved in 7 years, and many much better Metroidvanias have taken over while Silksong took its sweet time. We will continue to judge long-term development cycles for taking the wrong lessons from games made during dev time, and Silksong is now among them.
I'm sure if you wait a year, someone will make a mod for it like they did for Hades. Remember that? You really like that.
That's actually one of the major reasons I want to play Silksong again in like a year or 2. There's definitely someone out there working on an easy mod, and I very much praise their ability to stand against the storm of people who will argue this game needs no adjustments. Spiritfall had it right with their difficulty settings. That game really changed my opinion on games in general.
Speaking of Spiritfall, Nehru's Nightgown, this again? We reviewed the early access, we reviewed the full game, and we're here again with Spiritfall?
I get your meaning, but it came out on the Switch this year. Not only that, it has improved further. Beyond the thoughts expressed in a review of the full game way back when, the game has been updated with more NPCs to talk to, and boss rush and break the targets modes. Honestly, it leaned a bit further towards Smash Brothers, and that's a great thing. I feel like this is the last time we'll be talking about this game.
Did this game chain itself to your fingers, James? I see you miming playing it right now as we're recording this.
Shut up! It's fun. It's still fun. Even after playing it again on the Switch and unlocking as much as I can, I still find myself excited to go back to it. I highly recommend it for anyone looking for a roguelite like-alike with Smash elements that you wish went a little further. I hope Gentle Giant makes another one of these with a stronger Smash influence. Hell, talk to the Rivals of Aether peeps and make something spectacular by mashing ideas together.
You should check out our full review of the game. The link is right there in the description. Look at it. Isn't it nice? Alright, we can move on. Ah, finally, the two things James can't live without. Roguelite like-alikes and gambling.
But Andy, this one is actually different from the rest. Slots and Daggers is a game that takes place entirely in a bar. At least to me.
What?
I have a theory about this game. As you play, there's background noise that is very attuned to an ambiance of a crowded restaurant or bar. Like a lone pinball machine with strangers that gather around and celebrate your victories over various monsters and mega crit hits. I found that so cool. In addition to general chilled out music, there's dishes clinking, nonsensical orders being called out, and general restaurant noise. It's very cool.
Now even imaginary people can judge your gambling addiction.
In Slots and Daggers, you spin slots to execute attacks, defensive actions, spells, healing, and more via skill check. Every battle will earn you coins, which you spend between fights to earn more slot icons, stronger slot icons, new accessories that alter how often and how strong your slot icons are, and more. After about 5 to 6 battles, you'll take on the boss of the area. Then you move to the next area and do it again with stronger enemies and different varieties of things available from the shop. If you die, you're sent back to the title screen having earned poker chips. These will buy modifiers in the modifier shop that will alter runs, increase your HP or attack, and up the amount of slots you can spin from 3 to 5.
Why in Nehru's blue oceans do you have so many chips?
A bug happened a few days post-release that gifted some people an absolutely inconceivable amount of chips. I bought every modifier I didn't have yet and beat the game, which unlocks arena mode.
So this is a roguelite like-alike with an end?
Yes! It's one of the reasons I love it so much. There's an actual true ending to the game. Then arena mode happens, you can fight different versions of egg-type creatures which get more fun and more terrifying every fight. I highly recommend Slots and Daggers.
I find it both comical and deeply upsetting that this is by far the best Mario Party game on the Nintendo Switch, and so far the Switch 2 as well. Don't you?
Lego Party is Mario Party with a fresh Lego branded bedsheet haphazardly thrown over the entire thing. You travel boards with spaces on them that make things happen, you play mini-games to determine turn order, and you collect golden bricks to determine who wins after a set number of turns. There's a grand total of 60 mini-games in the whole deal that fit into 2 categories.
48 free-for-all, 12 team. Fortunately, it's rare you'll see doubles in a full game because you and the other players vote on which one to play. There are 3 known choices and a random one that will pick out of the others that didn't appear. Unfortunately, there are only 3 or 4 that will excite you and actually work.
Every minigame in which you control a vehicle, specifically a rocket, control like shit. There's very little recourse for mistakes, movement often feels too floaty and not at all precise. I guess that lends to the hilarity of the game itself, making mistakes with your friends nearby, but we here at G2D play to win. Mistakes cost time.
Boards are rather unbalanced as well. If we look at the theme park map, there's no reason to engage with the attractions you can build. Circling the center, where Mr. Gold the Gold Brick Seller is, will cost you the least time and earn you the most bricks. Looking at the Ninjago map, there's only one shop, only one thief space, and only one trap space. The trap is a space in front of the thief space, so there's never a point to travel that way because you'll lose anything you'd gain from stealing.
Overall, Lego Party is okay. Certainly a good first time through as you learn what does and definitely does not work, but it's hard to go back to, even if it is, again, the best Mario Party game on the system at the moment. I think the only thing that broke my attention to this game, the addiction I had to spinning slots, equipping trinkets, and fulfilling money-based deadlines before I fall and die, is the fact I fell fully asleep while playing on the couch.
He was out cold and somehow still spinning slots. Must have been gambling in his dreams.
That's hilarious.
It can be funny as well as a sign that something should probably change.
This game hogged nearly every free moment I had for quite a while. You are jailed and forced to gamble for your freedom. But as you can probably guess, the deadlines for the amount of money you have to acquire in 3 rounds of spins continues to grow, eventually to unimaginable levels, which will inevitably lead to failure. But there is an escape. I just don't know what it is. It has something to do with the limb parts you can equip and find, I think. Anyway, as you spin and play, you can increase certain factors to help you gain cash, including symbol multipliers, pattern multipliers, and your luck stat.
Stop. How do you measure luck?
Oh, luck is an invisible stat in this game you can alter with trinkets and phone abilities. If you spin with over 15 luck, you're guaranteed a jackpot. So it's invisible, but you can actively measure and keep track of it. And that's the delicious taste you seek in Clover Pit. That luck high you can ever so rarely strike. Anyway, game good, game hard, game violent, but most of all, game fun. When this was revealed, I hailed it as my reason to own a Switch 2. I resisted for as long as I could, waiting for deals and sales. Unfortunately, I only waited a month. Then with the help of my family, did acquire a Switch 2 along with Bonanza.
In DKB, you play as DK, who has rated his hands E for everything. You'll exercise his complete fisting freedom by punching everything in sight. Rock formations, the ground, enemies, piles of gold, rocks, boulders, nearly everything in this game will submit to DK's accosting appendages. Of course, there's a story wrapped around this world, built for someone like James, which follows a teenage Pauline being nervous about singing in front of people or some stuff. It's really uninteresting and falls apart when she learns to sing in front of people in order to transform DK into various animals to power up his punches, let him destroy things faster, and a snake. The snake is useless. Now, back to James, having an internal crisis about his reasons for owning this system falling apart. Back to you, James.
Bonanza is just okay. It's so aggressively and powerfully okay. I don't regret my purchase because I like to punch things, but the game dragged on for fucking ever. The final boss is really dumb and sacrificed interesting characters for fan service. I wanted to like this game, but it takes forever to finish, and it doesn't really evolve as you spend hours collecting bananas. It's not necessarily a boring game, but this is definitely not the system seller. Fun as it is, I recommend finding a game store of some kind with this demo in its kiosk. You'll experience all the evolution this game has to offer in all 10 of the minutes the demo lets you have.
Oh, come on. There isn't one absolutely gold moment you have to share with us, James?
This moment right here. Didn't make the game's length worth it, but damn it was satisfying. It's the sport of kings, but gacha and all the horses are anime girls. Dozens of currencies, hundreds of bits of UI, and positively grotesque RNG have caused me to uninstall this and forget it existed until this very moment.
Well, this looks pretty.
Pretty difficult. Dragon Blazers is an old-school looking side-scrolling platform and beat-em-up game styled to look like anime from the 90s. A look at nails pretty well. You'll pick one of 3 characters to beat enemies with using various inputs. I'm not sure what all the combos are because I'm not a fighting game aficionado, but it does seem like there are more inputs than the cardinal directions plus attack.
The story follows the character you chose fighting beasts and dodging flying dog collars as they face down an evil cyber ninja army who are ruining your beautiful world. There isn't much more beyond that as far as story. I'm not even sure there's much more for gameplay either.
There isn't. This is an arcade game, so it's meant to be short, played through multiple times to get the best time and score you can, and controller crunching difficult. Because it's arcade styled, this game is hard as hell, bosses are complete bull plonk, and I eventually ran out of steam trying to fight each boss over and over. I hope this developer's next game has a longer, more important story, or at least checkpoints in it. Finally, the giant sword game is out and in my hands. Gaiga Sword is a Kickstarted adventure game where you play as Ezra, a human with the ability to carry around a sword as big as he is. Every movement he makes expresses the immense weight of his blade as he drags it along when he runs, takes forever to attack, and becomes absolutely fucking useless without it.
As Ezra, you must ascend a tower, the top of which holds a power that was secluded from human hands for good reason, which made the humans mad. They then hatched a plan to force themselves inside the tower, kill the bird people within, and become horrifying monsters when the power became too much for them. That last part wasn't in their plan, but that's what happens. Now Ezra's gotta ascend while fighting off very mutated red, blue, and purple creatures to stop them from corrupting the power and the world further.
Gaiga Sword is a difficult game, not only because attacking takes a while due to the weight of the sword, or the powers that are introduced incrementally, or the maps that take a very long time to traverse. Not even because the game launched without and still does not contain fast travel. Baffling decision. Simply baffling, I cannot get over that. But because of how completely useless Ezra is without the sword. He can't fight, he can't use magic, he can't can't even heal himself without his precious sword.
He can jump higher and slide into crevices, so that's something.
Yeah, but every puzzle in the game is built to bring Ezra and his sword together. I don't understand why he wasn't given an ability he can use outside his sword. There are large sections of exploration where you are just at the will of every projectile and suddenly appearing enemy while you run to the spot where the game decided your sword should be. I haven't completed this game, but I am a grand portion of the way through, and I am appalled at how often I have to leave my sword somewhere, then dodge through droves of enemies just so I can bring my sword to me again. It's so frustrating. I cannot recommend this game in its current state. It needs fast travel. It needs something Ezra can do without his sword. He survived for 10 years on the streets of whatever village. He had to learn to throw rocks or something. He shouldn't be as useless as he is.
I call bull feculence. No way you, of all people, played a significant portion of this.
If you'll give me a minute to let Chris in, who's been playing this game since it launched in early access, he'll review this one.
Should have brought him in before I yelled at you.
I thought you'd, make a joke, not just be you.
Thanks.
Chris, the floor is yours.
Finally, I've been waiting outside for days to talk about this. Hades is the one quality gift that the 20s has bestowed upon us. When I first attempted to crawl out of the underworld at a demo at PAX West for so long that the kindly kiosk operator asked me to die so others could have a chance to play, I knew this would be the game of the decade. How do you possibly improve upon something like that? You stack more cake on the cake and give me a bigger fork. There is no saving me. Bury me in cake. Hades 2 knows the assignment and performs exactly as instructed. More electrifying art, more broken weapon and element combos, and the earned confidence it takes to make a game strut. You play as Melinoe, daughter of Hades. She's been displaced from her family, just as they had been mending their relationship after the events of the original Hades. Scattered to the wind by the Titan of Time, Kronos, Melinoe has been taken in by a coven of hidden deities, joined in an effort to end his chronal shenanigans. So, you're a young god, dungeon crawling your way to your oppressive elder, aided by your extended family's borrowed abilities. Sound familiar? Don't worry, Hades 2 saw you digging your way into Tartarus and figured out there's a whole other second direction you can go in now.
Upwards!
That's right, the ground is no longer the ceiling. You can now choose to go climbing through the surface realms all the way up to Mount Olympus. If that's not enough, here's a boss that sings their own theme song. What else could you ask for? I jumped into early access, telling myself that I'd only do a single run and leave the rest of the mysteries locked away for the full release, no matter how long it would take to craft this new masterpiece. 50 hours later, I had already exhausted all bosses, weapon selections, and character dialogue options available at the time. I had to randomize my Steam password just to keep from jumping back in whenever a new segment was produced for Supergiant's one and only direct sequel. Fast forward nearly 2 years, and they delivered all I could have asked for. The one weakness that I could nitpick would be the ending. No spoilers, but the post-launch events that unfold I felt robbed some agency of the characters and erased a lot of that narrative momentum that had built up over the hundreds of ventures above and below the ground. I heard that patches have been released to recontextualize and extend certain segments in that last stretch of scenes, but I'm already 250 hours deep, and my roguelike anonymous group is urging me to bathe again.
Here I go!
I've been following this game's development for a number of years, and I have to express my absolute elation that I can play it on the Switch. You play as 3 explorers who are members of a race of aliens known as Iols, who crash land on Earth and now must perform recon missions, quickly, as a team!
A quick group research of sorts.
They'll transform into enemies and objects, solve puzzles, and fight off future friends in this very calming adventure. This is possibly one of the most chilled out platformers I've ever played.
Each level has 3 medals to earn. One for collecting a certain amount of scrap, which objects and enemies drop, one for finding all the secret gift items, and one for not dying, which can offer some measure of challenge. Most levels will require more than one playthrough.
Which brings me to how absolutely boring this game is. But in this case, boring is not a bad thing. The aesthetic and energy of this game is chilled and cozy, and it puts me to sleep. Again, not a bad thing, but I can't play this game for more than 20 minutes. This is a perfectly okay game with very little challenge and overall fine platforming. It's just a little too mundane for me. Before this one begins, I have to call out the writer. There's a male character in here named Billy, who uses every female character as the butt of some joke. Everything out of his mouth is vitriol. He is an abhorrent element of this game that should have been cut out in the early drafts. While I will applaud the fact he gets seriously injured, I cannot forgive the character for how he acts, how he talks, and his story arc, if you can call it that. Terrible character, terrible decision.
Okay. Artist Impact is a turn-based RPG where you, as Akane and a small group of survivors, aim to fight off the AI horde. So, this is a vision of the future. Humans built AI, AI built more AI, that AI built more AI. It began killing everyone, but realized at some point that if it killed everyone, advancement of its own intelligence would cease. So it created Learning AI to gather as much information on and follow around humans.
The presentation and animation in this game are some of the best you'll see. Full stop. I love the cutscenes and how they flow like a living manga. I adore the conversations and interactions between Akane and her learning AI that follows her around, Bot. I even enjoyed the battle system, which I broke early on, then again at the very end. Although, I have no idea what the point of any part of the story was. It all seemed entirely pointless and open-ended, with very long gaps in time between what you get to see or play. Honestly, Artist Impact is a game with some very good aspects that is held down by a million little problems, like paying for save spots. Why? Why does any game make you pay to save your game? Oh, there's also the job system. That doesn't work very well and it takes forever to fire off something that even looks like progress.
I noticed during the final boss fight with this chunk of something, you eventually just stop taking damage.
I fought this thing for an hour. Enemies and bosses couldn't stand more than a single slice of my sword, but this thing had some sort of ability that caused it to take absolutely forever to kill. Not sure what I did, but this shouldn't have taken that long. Overall, I wanted to like this game, with its presentation and animation being so beautiful, but there isn't much past that to recommend. Ow! Ever feel like going back to basics? A time before bloated rosters, echo fighters, unlockables, and terrible character selection screens? Then a few quick matches is for you!
This is a platform fighter for 1 to 4 players where CPUs can fill in gaps. At launch, there were only 3 playable, differently costumed stickmen, with a 4th added in a later patch. I found that odd for a 4-player game to only have 3 characters. Anyway, that's it. No additional modes, no complicated backstories, no faff. Just boot up the game for, as the game implies, a few quick matches.
I don't see anything wrong with that. It's built for offensive movement, so player and ledge grabs are not possible, and no shielding. So if you play, prepare to pummel and be pummeled.
Each stickman is unique and has their own names, strengths, weaknesses, and the entire game controls as tightly as one would hope.
I really wanted to like this game. I want to hail it as the party game to play like we do the original, which is enshrined in our home.
On a shelf with everything else.
Point still stands. The hype of a sequel to a 22-year-old incredible game on an awesome system should be exactly what the Switch 2 needs to invigorate excitement in the next generation of Nintendo games, right?
You would think so.
Well, it missed on almost every factor it possibly could. Gameplay is updated to be entirely too fast, with slow mode acting as an overcorrection rather than an option to actually slow gameplay to an understandable level. There are many crags in the map that will halt you for absolutely no reason, even though your cars aren't even riding on the ground most of the time. Characters have wildly ineffective special moves for whatever situation you find them in. The combo meter for picking up items is completely useless. Hunting pieces of legendary machines is straight up pointless because they can appear in any box. RNG factors will prevent actual progress on the all-important checklists, and you can't even use the free checkboxes on certain boxes. That's ridiculous. And finally, the game encourages pursuing other players. As players attack each other, victims lose power-ups to aggressors, if you can catch them. One thing that really irks me is the fact you can steal other players' cars. They have to be battered enough with lasers, bombs, and copy abilities, but when you get it, it's fully healed? How does that make any fucking sense?
Also, the menus are positively abysmal. I'm not sure who designed these, but they're confusing, there's simply too many, and half of them contain no actual information.
Final nail in the coffin. The individual sounds for picking up power-up patches are now generic single jingles no matter which one you grab. What a disappointment from nearly all angles, even though it was supposed to be our reason to recommend the Switch 2. Oh well, one more game we can say, I'd wait for another 2. Look everyone, Andy gets to talk for a while!
I tried to temper my expectations after Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated didn't live up to the original, and then Cosmic Shake was pretty rocky throughout. But if Titans of the Tide is the destination, then the SpongeBob 3D platformer journey was well worth it. Titans of the Tide kicks off with Neptune and the Flying Dutchman getting into an argument at the Krusty Krab, and their combined supernatural powers tear the fabric of reality asunder. Caught in the middle, SpongeBob and Patrick are paranormally linked, with only one being playable at a time while the other hovers around as a ghost. With the press of a button, the two can swap at any time and make use of their individual abilities. You'll find yourself rapidly oscillating between SpongeBob and Patrick to navigate needlepoint platforming, wave after wave of aggressive ghosts, and hopscotching around little references to various eras of the show. Look, Mindy's here! Truly, I was just so surprised at how well done Titans of the Tide is. SpongeBob and Patrick's abilities are gradually unlocked and accelerated over the course of the game, and areas often have exclusive toys to mess with to make them more memorable. Swapping between the two characters always keeps you on your toes in the middle of the action, and you're never out of options while fighting ghosts. And for anyone in the audience who played this game, did you notice the music changes depending on who you're playing as? Patrick has these low droning brass tones, while SpongeBob has higher whistling and twinkles. Titans of the Tide also makes sure to improve where its prequels failed. Side quests are now integrated directly into the level design and progress, rather than requiring full replays. There's meaty side challenges to push your skills to the limit, and the endgame reward is good. I'm talking Kirby Amazing Mirror or Squeak Squad good. I got the game on PS5, dodging yet another game keycard, and like with Astrobot last year, turning on and using a PS5 requires quite the reward at the end. Titans of the Tide is well worth that bother. And it's short too, a nice and short game worth every penny at $40. There's simply no reason to not pick up Titans of the Tide. Let's get right to it. Shantae Advance Risky Revolution is the latest game in the Shantae series. It is also the second game in the series that, in total, consists of 6 games. That's because Risky Revolution was originally meant to release in the mid-2000s on the GBA before being shelved, hence the advance in the title. This causes the overall product to exist in a strange limbo state, wherein it's held back by the limitations of the GBA, while also being scrutinized by today's standards. To be clear, I've played the game on both the intended GBA hardware and the port to Switch. Though there are differences, such as high-definition artwork and costumes, the grand experience is the same. So how is that grand experience? It's pretty dull. The Shantae staples are all here: cute character designs, hair-whipping platforming, magical transformations, and chuckle-inducing dialogue. The primary change is the tremor switch, which causes the layers of the world to be spun and swapped around. In the main levels, you can activate the engine and shift the background relative to the foreground, causing different areas to be visible and accessible. In the towns, the main quests for progress are solved by shifting things back to where they belong. Though this sounds interesting on paper, all this swapping only works as a binary switch. You can only do or undo. The most interesting level design and combat occurs in the dungeons, but they don't use the swapping mechanic. They focus on Shantae's transformations. The dungeons are good and clean, right up there with the rest of the series. Unfortunately though, the whole game lacks any sort of map. Where this ends up being most impactful is figuring out which cave entrance you've already explored, since they all look identical and switch spots via the tremor switch. Oh, and I guess I should mention that this is the first Shantae game to include any sort of multiplayer. It's a 4-player battle mode with an arena that rotates periodically. This really intrigued me at first, because it actually does use the GBA link cable, but upon playing it, I found it's really unbalanced and slow. Players can only be eliminated by getting knocked into hazards, but it's incredibly easy to get juggled, so you get hit once, and you might as well set your controller down. Risky Revolution ends up not fully exploring any of its present ideas or gimmicks, instead borrowing advancements that came later in the series. For example, Shantae's transformations are tied to instant button presses rather than rhythmic timing. That change wouldn't come until 7 Sirens, but for the things that Risky Revolution exclusively has, such as the tremor switch and the multiplayer, they end up feeling like things that would end up eventually inspiring an indie dev, had they actually released 20 years ago. Kinda like how Mutant Muds was inspired by Virtual Boy Wario Land. This right here is that awkward limbo state I mentioned earlier, where Risky Revolution exists in 2 time periods at once. It's small and short, as one would expect for a GBA game, but it having been released this year on modern platforms causes it to always require that asterisk.
Boy, after LEGO Party, I hope you're all eager to hear about another LEGO game in our arsenal. One that sacrifices imagination, creativity, and general fun for, LEGO Voyagers, a linear story-centric game about a red brick and a blue brick as one of them tries to go to space or something. You and your forced co-op partner will roll along different environments, sticking and unsticking blocks to yourself to get across gaps and fix stuff.
It is pretty cool to see your little brick's collision and control get adjusted based on the Katamari-like brick gathering. Elsewise, the 2 bricks roll around giant empty environments free of conflict and strife, piloting vehicles and solving puzzles.
While the game has very little to recommend and is reminiscent of games like Split Fiction, and you know how we felt about that one, it is also very short. In about 2 to 3 hours, your little bricks will have completed their story, and you'll wonder why you spent
$25
on such pathetically little content. Hailing from a time of antiquated Metroidvania design decisions and confusing sense of humor, we got this game's prequel, Gal Guardian's Demon Purge. It had poor control, didn't incentivize 100% completion, and was overall a poor game. This game, Gal Guardian Servants of the Dark, looks at the modern Metroidvania designs and is better controlled, with more to find to do, and absolutely incentivizes 100% completion. As such, out of pure coincidence, this is a much better game.
We've tested a few of these in the past, mostly through mods, but we can now confirm that a co-op Castlevania adjacent experience can work, and that only excites us for when Scarlet Engagement releases.
One thing that really stood out in the sequel was how they differentiated the two protagonists further. They each have their own inventory of special abilities they can equip instead of sharing a huge pool that cross-contaminates. The map is much better this time, making it much easier to find and complete side quests. The combat is much better controlled and animated, making playing the game and completing those side quests much more worth it.
The whole experience is one that should stand tall among its genre. Maybe it won't have the dark and serious lore that people hope to find nowadays, but I'm all for the lighthearted dialogue and silly outfits. I'm also quite thankful that our Switch copy, having been made for the Asian region, works perfectly fine in English. Region-free games on region-free systems are a true positive.
Pac-Man platformers were never a part of our childhood, so we didn't know what to expect when the remasters came out. What we got was another avenue through which an iconic character jumps on platforms, collects currency, and defeats enemies via kicking. Pac-Man World 2 Repack is an overall fine game with low-level challenges and one serious hang-up.
If you miss a collectible in a level, you have to start the whole level over. Checkpoints will only delay your goal of 100% completion because there are sections of levels walled off by running sequences or other insurmountable cliffs. Then you get to play it all again. Lucky you! Player 2, because this is a co-op game, takes the form of a drone that can shoot pellets at things and defeat enemies.
It's just a little more helpful than being a hat.
Also, this remaster apparently changed a lot. It was only after we'd looked online that we were able to appreciate that the originals are significantly different than the modern versions. Still though, we find ourselves wishing a bit more had changed.
Do you all wish you had more RoboCop Rogue City? More shooting, with more guns, with more punching people through walls, all without that pesky police work you would get to do that would introduce and deepen character plots and storylines that would get in the way of shooting and punching? Well then Unfinished Business is the standalone expansion for you. The story follows a tower OCP built for the citizens of Detroit that could no longer afford housing that is then taken over by someone from RoboCop's past.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, I appreciate the further expansion of the RoboCop lore. It's cool, but I wish they could use characters from the movies because these game-specific characters will never come back again. They'd have more impact if they weren't just loosely related to characters from the films. But I digress. The game is fun. Not as fun as original Flavor Rogue City because I miss getting to know people you solve crimes with and for. It made the last 2 hours of the game way more impactful because actual stakes were at stake. Although this game is definitely higher risk because the main villain gets his hands dirty this time. At one point he gasses an entire floor full of people to prove a point to RoboCop, and it's awful. It makes me hate him. That's something I didn't see coming that had an impact. Overall, this game is good. More of Rogue City's action-oriented gameplay, and there's nothing wrong with that. But getting to explore the tower more would have been another positive bit about it.
In a rare event we've never gotten to experience, this is the second Tales of remaster from this year we get to put into one of these shows. This time it's a remaster of the 2013 Tales of Xillia. This remaster port lacks its sequel Xillia 2, even though both games were on the same system, came out a year apart, and shared data between them. So some functionality was left behind.
Similar to Grace's F's remaster, Xillia gets the grade shot before you start any playthrough, which means more playing with your starting abilities, experience gains, and difficulty modes, leading to a much more casual-friendly experience that makes 100% playthroughs a lot more appetizing. In addition to the standard from Grace's F Remastered onward, such as side quest markers on maps, a faster sprint, and subtitles.
Unfortunately, this remaster is less like Grace's F's and more like Symphonia's, as the porting job is lackluster. We bought the Switch version of Xillia Remastered and played it on Switch 2, which caused some issues in the experience, such as T-posing characters, frame rate dips, and a couple crashes. When we switched to the, well, Switch, we received a much different experience. The game is nearly unplayable on original Flavor Switch, with frames dipping further, inputs not reading, and effects not rendering correctly.
Also, if you're considering getting this game because of the dual story between Jude and/or Mila, play Jude's story. Mila's story ends up being broken with huge chunks missing and unimpressive presentation. Jude's is more emotional, stronger, and better told.
The Lilium Orb offering very little in terms of character building, and giant, absolutely barren field environments are problems too. The only real shining piece of this game is the story, which had some jaw-dropping moments. The battle system is more contrived this time, with much less to offer for rewards. With this having released the same year as Grace's F's remaster, we recommend picking that up instead of this. The value is higher, the game is better, and it runs much more smoothly on the Switch. So this is a bit weird. Literally only I will care about this, but I'm the one who's talking, so I'm going to talk about what I care about. This right here is the Nintendo e-reader. It works by scanning dot codes printed on the side of cards, sort of like a barcode reader, and interpreting that raw data in numerous ways. The e-reader is probably most famous for being used in games like Mario Bros. 3 and Animal Crossing, but it can also be used to play games all on its own, and that's why these were made. These are brand new, released this year, e-reader cards. An entire booster pack of cards from RetroDotCards. 9 cards gives you 5 games. Exo Attack, a shoot 'em up, Franny Answers, which is effectively a Magic 8-ball, and GBA recreations of Solitaire, Snake, and Minesweeper. The last card is an achievement tracker. Although the total collection might come across as a simple programming exercise, there's a lot of love poured into these little games. Each game has their own graphics, little touches, and Easter eggs. There's also extraneous bits that I, for one, would have never thought to include, such as leaderboards that work via code submission. It's just like when you'd submit your high score to a magazine. The e-reader's unique format allows various tricks to be taken advantage of, such as scanning the second Snake card while playing Exo Attack. Of course, that does also mean sitting down to play these games requires the entire ceremony of using an e-reader, which can be a bit finicky. It's a lot of pomp, considering the circumstances. You might notice this pack is labeled Series 1. If you stop by RetroDotCards' site, you'll see Series 2 is upcoming. And it's Picross themed, link in the description, and if you look closely, you can see me vibrating with glee. There are few things in this world designed specifically with me in mind. Red sweatshirts, silence, effigies built to honor Shantae's huge, bulbous adventures, but this right here is one such thing.
Okay, I admit that was more games than even I really thought we could play in 6 months.
You both constantly overestimate and underestimate the amount of time we have to do things, James. I feel like a planner would really help you.
Is this you subtly telling me that late Christmas present is a fancy planner I don't plan to use?
No. Who would get you something to improve your life, time management skills, and overall mental health? Not me. Anyway, now that we've reviewed the games, it's time to give out some awards to those games. Those awards include our versions of Best, Worst, and Okayest of 2025, in addition to 4 extra awards we like to mix in.
The Curly Fries Award.
The Buddy Buddy Award.
The SpongeBob SquarePants Titans of the Tide Award.
I like that one. And finally, the Worst Game Mechanic Award.
I hate that one. Now that you got a good look at the awards, it's time we go through which games are up to receive them. Check them out.
AI Limit.
Atelier Yumia, Alchemist of Memories in the Envisioned Land.
Cuisineer.
Elden Ring Nightreign.
Everhood 2.
Gex Trilogy.
Nights in Tight Spaces.
Mario Kart World.
Pipistrello and the Cursed Yo-Yo.
Split Fiction.
Suikoden 1 and 2 Remaster.
Tales of Grace's F Remastered.
Wings of Endless.
Ys Memoire Oath and Felghana.
A few quick matches.
Artist Impact.
Ball X Pit.
Clover Pit.
Donkey Kong Bonanza.
Dragon Blazers.
Gal Guardians, Servants of the Dark.
Gyga Sword.
Hades 2.
Hollow Knight Silk Song.
House of Necrosis.
Hyper Team Recon.
Kirby Air Riders.
Lego Party.
Lego Voyagers.
Pac-Man World 2 Repack.
Quartet.
RoboCop Rogue City Unfinished Business.
Shantae Advance, Risky Revolution.
Shrine's Legacy.
Silly Polly Beast.
Slots and Daggers.
Spiritfall.
SpongeBob SquarePants Titans of the Tide.
Tales of Xillia Remastered.
Pretty Derby.
Good enough. Retro. Series 1 e-reader cards.
Now that we know the games and awards, it's time to start giving them out. Let's start at the bottom with our Worst Game of the Year awards.
Despite what reviewers and sales numbers of the time would tell you, Kirby Air Ride is an incredible game. Enshrined in this household it will be, preserved for future generations, so that they may rediscover the definition of fun when Mario Party has another dark era of consecutive boring sequels. We've played the original Kirby Air Ride for countless hours, 100% completed that checklist multiple times, and learned so many unspoken rules and mechanics about the one and only true way to burn an afternoon, City Trial. We dreamt of a sequel that would never come, so when it was finally announced,
Oh, what?
safe to say it was our system seller. So, why is it my worst game of the year? You could say Kirby Air Riders simply didn't meet my expectations and I'm overreacting to mere disappointment, but I disagree. Almost every impression I see for Air Riders is that people have trouble understanding what exactly is happening, and it ends up dependent on the individual if that's an obscuring annoyance or colorful and stimulating. I fall into the former category. There isn't a moment of gameplay that isn't a static level assault of visual effects with characters whipping between the edges of the screen. I can't help but feel as though any success of mine while playing Air Riders ends up the result of an accident rather than a proper execution of skill, and I'm not convinced that's not true of every other player. The sheer speed and pace of everything makes it impossible to chase down a goal, but incidentally drive by bonking someone is easy as pie. I'd play on slow mode, but it doesn't just reduce the speed of the players like I was hoping. It literally slows down time, causing everything to feel like it's floating underwater and turning a 5-minute game to a little over 8 minutes. To be fair, that's how slow mode worked in the original game as well, but I didn't like it there either. If I may give an example, here's one reason why I prefer the original game's scope and pace to the sequels. In the GameCube game, when you collected 2 power-ups at the same time, you would hear cheers, because it's uncommon to find 2 power-ups at the same time. Blue boxes would often only have 1 power, or even have negatives inside. You have to play slowly and considerately. You can't just floor it through the whole match. In Air Riders though, if you pick up less than 4 power-ups at any one time, you're not playing fast enough. After the first minute, you need to have a near constant fountain of power-ups pouring into your character if you want to be up to par. If you want me to get really nitpicky, I cannot believe my machine suffers the same pratfalls as the stage builder portal in Smash Ultimate. Extremely few ways to browse for new stuff, and the stuff you can see is just synonyms for popularity, so what's there will just stay there for months and months. I tell you without exaggeration, every time I boot up Smash Ultimate stage builder and look around, I see the exact same stuff by the same people, even after years. I can tell the same will be true in my machine, as launch week uploads are still there a month later. And why does the checklist unlock duplicate items? Characters have costumes, I get it, and unlocking the character twice gives you a costume, I get that. But what about the times after that? We've been going through the checklist, haven't quite finished it, and we've now unlocked every costume, but we're still finding duplicate characters in the checklist. So what are we doing this for anymore? Lastly, why is City Trial still only 1 map? Why does this form of gameplay in both Kirby Air Ride games and Smash Run always have to be on 1 map? You might notice all of my thoughts here only consider City Trial, and that's because I only really like that part of this little series. Regarding the new stuff, Road Trip is Spirits Mode again, and gummies sure are gummies. Isn't it funny how the meat of the game is at the bottom of the main menu? Kirby Air Riders is my worst game of the year because every time I have the opportunity to play it, I end up just wishing I were playing the first game instead. To hope for a sequel for over 20 years that just makes me rather play the original game again is painful, and I'm sure a lot of fans of Nintendo's individual franchises know how that feels. It's not glitchy or broken, and there's something to be praised of Sora Team's practices for releasing a full product with no planned DLC. Certainly, I celebrate that, but I just don't enjoy the product in the first place.
The worst game of the year is always an easy one to give out, don't you think? The game that aggravated you the most, caused the most friction between you and your hobby? That sounds right. So this year, my worst game of the year award will go to Mario Kart World. To those about to yell, "But the updates fixed it!" I don't care. I simply do not care. And that is absolutely the reason the game deserves this award. I have no desire to touch it again, to recommend it to friends, to suggest it for gatherings, for even scrolling by it on the Switch 2's menu. I do not care. The Switch 2 has been marred by a high price tag for the system as well as the games for said system. $70 is high for a grand portion of the population no matter who you are. Well, how do you feel about $80? Because that is MSRP for Mario Kart World, another of Nintendo's spin-off series that has gone open world for absolutely no reason. We covered this on a review which you can watch here, link in the description, but Mario Kart World is so unwaveringly bland the whole game may as well be 50% gray. It removes glider and underwater travel, adds in roads between courses that are 4 times longer than the actual courses. It's such a bland, boring, unfun experience. I don't care how good it gets post-release. I have absolutely checked out of Mario Kart World completely. In fact, the only reason I remember it exists is that it is stapled to my system via digital download because Nintendo only sold 1 unbundled system for every 43 Mario Kart World bundles. Of course, we're going to see that number shift as they discontinue the bundles, for good reason too. It spares anyone having to play this inexplicably mundane Mario game. If you want a good time, get Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. You get every bit of DLC, characters, courses, modes, all of it for the same price as Mario Kart World. All on cartridge if you can find it. May this be the last time I have to mention Mario Kart World, because it's certainly the last time I'm gonna play it.
I always think it's important to remind everyone that the title of okayest game isn't necessarily a bad one. In previous years, I've handed it to Super Princess Peach, Trinity Trigger, and Cadence of Hyrule. The last two I look back on quite fondly, and I've replayed Cadence a few times. So please understand that, as a huge fan of this series, me thinking this new game is okay doesn't detract me from recommending it. My okayest game is Shantae Advance Risky Revolution. Like I mentioned before, Shantae Advance has some ideas and concepts that don't feel fully explored, and that could simply be a result of it needing to be compacted into a GBA cartridge. It's also a pretty diminutive game, only taking me about 8 hours to 100% complete, but it's still a Shantae game. It's very well animated, it's got funny writing and low-stakes little twists, and the transformations open platforming challenges and shortcuts very nicely. I'm proud to own the Golden Collector's cartridge and have the soundtrack in my car. Similar to Kirby Air Riders, the anticipation for Shantae Advance had been built up for around 20 years. The game first debuted in Nintendo Power, and the demo was played on a live stream by Matt Bozon in 2013 or so. The mystery of the theoretical full game's contents has finally been answered, and it's just like any other game. It's got some good, got some flaws, such as typos and game-breaking collision, and now the world can move on.
I gave my worst game award to a high-profile Nintendo property that stupidly went open world for the Switch 2 era, so it's only fitting my okayest Game of the Year award goes to a high-profile Nintendo property that stupidly went open world, right? Well, the Switch 2 seems to only have okay games on the system thus far. Not a single, holy crap, I need to buy this installment. And as a Nintendo shill, I've tried all the biggest ones I care about, but I had to pick, and the okayest Game of the Year goes to Donkey Kong Bonanza. The reason I bought a Switch 2. I remember being in our local GameStop, completely detached from reality while I played the 10-minute demo. Andy wandered around the store, trying to find things to look at. The workers were bored and on their phones, and I was absolutely entranced by the majesty of leveling everything with only your fists. Using Kong Bonanza for the first time and throwing rocks into space, I was enthralled at how fluid and fun everything felt. Little did I know, that tiny demo was the entire game, right there. How do you take a strong monkey with fists that can flatten everything and make it so boring you only remember the game for 2 single things? Well, by making Bonanza, of course! You trickle in a little bit of useless story surrounding a teenage version of a semi-recognizable character who has a problem they can immediately fix if they just get over themselves. You add a zip of original characters that are one note, with boss fights that repeat at least twice that weren't endearing the first time. You cook until you see Spot's profound game length that could have definitely been cut in half. Then, finally, you squirt a heap of nostalgia-fueled fan service on the whole thing. At the end, you have this mess! Bonanza is so boring and bloated, it foreshadows the big reveal to try and keep longtime fans invested. Cranky Kong is a character you have to visit in each level to get a banana, and every time he gives you a speech which acts as foreshadowing for the final boss. His descriptions are obviously not about Void Kong. You can't skip them, and it really steals the moment the rest of the game should have had to shine. Nintendo took Punch Everything and made it boring, filled it to the brim with open world nonsense, and created another series installment that changes the face of another character. Wow, I wish this game were shorter. Also, DK's redesign is stupid.
Before we reveal our best games of the year, we're going to present our 4 extra awards. Our first extra award is the Buddy Award, gathered and given to the best co-op experience we played this year. This is extra poignant because we were executing a full year of cooperative RPGs on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/gatewaydrillbit, so we have a lot of candidates this year. But which one was the best, with the most options, and had the most asymmetric way to show 2 players can act differently while playing together? Why, it's none other than Elden Ring Nightreign.
It's hard to find points to make after doing a full review of this game not too long ago, which you can watch here, link in the description. Beyond the fact this game offers the most distinction between players that are actively working toward a shared goal. While you're all running around Limveld like scared cats trying to collect all the runes and area-specific abilities you can, there are right stones you can equip prior to your adventure that allow each player to stand out in the group.
Even though they aren't valuable or offer big improvement or asymmetric advantages, they are enough to allow each player to have their own abilities and powers prior to Limveld exploration. There are even class-specific rightstone abilities that you can start with and equip. Surfing through the ocean of nothing most of these are to actually get to those good rightstones is a very trifling experience, but when you have the 3-way handshake between them, it does offer some measure of advantage for the bigger 3-way handshake your team needs to be successful. While we don't engage with this game anymore, we do see that this is a unique experience for the co-op partners in the same room that stands above other RPGs. They took a game in the Souls-like genre and made it multiplayer and cooperative, and that is no easy feat. It should be celebrated for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, all of that.
Following our Buddy Award, we have our Curly Fries Award.
We give this one to the best remakester port we played this year. Our co-op RPG Crusade definitely helped us solidify our choice, and we're happy to present this award to
Tales of Xillia and Tales of Grace's F Remastered. For one reason and one reason alone. The Grade Shop!
For those unfamiliar and who only played Symphonia or Vesperia Remastered, the Grade Shop is a way to improve future playthroughs of some Tales of games, allowing things like 5 times XP, harder modes, carrying more items, easier battles, double gald, and more. Grace's F and Xillia Remastered offered these shops at the very beginning of your adventure, which vastly improved future playthroughs of these already good games.
Grace's F is far and away the better game, but Xillia's mundane experience is certainly better with the Grade Shop in tow.
I think it's pretty funny the only reason these games got this award is the Grade Shop.
Hey! They're also faithful remasters. Well, Grace's is. Xillia's a bit rough.
It is with great confusion that we present our third extra award, the SpongeBob SquarePants Titans of the Tide Award.
Much like the RoboCop Rogue City and the Visions of Mana awards from previous years, we wanted to give a special moment to one particular game this year. Hilariously, RoboCop got a standalone expansion this year, but it's not getting a RoboCop award. Anyway, we're awarding the SpongeBob SquarePants Titans of the Tide Award to Spa-Squa-Ta-Da-Ta, because just like I said before, there is no reason to not pick it up. In this house, we're big fans of the early seasons of SpongeBob. We find any reason to quote episodes and any way to reference moments. Titans of the Tide rewards that loyalty with the outfits you can unlock for SpongeBob and Patrick, the fact that the portals are flies, and Sandy's hibernation. If you're into the later seasons, I'm guessing you'd recognize this Spot character, because I certainly don't. But even if you're not into the show, Titans of the Tide is still an enamoring standalone experience. The animations and cutscenes are top-notch for slapstick comedic antics, the writing is mildly witty with memorable delivery, and above all, the platforming is the best of the series. Each level takes your abilities, new and old, and scrambles them up in every which permutation to keep your mind and your fingers active. The game has a straightforward, linear progress to its story with an actual end goal in mind the whole way through, and there are plenty of areas where you can screw around and just explore. It's a brilliant game that feels so good to play and doesn't get bogged down by any extra guff. It's exactly as long as it should be, even having extra challenges for those hungry for more, which I very much was.
It is now time to present our final extra award before our best, the one we never have to argue about who to give it to, where it's going, or why. Worst Game Mechanic. This one gets given to the absolute worst game mechanic we've experienced this year. Hooray! We've been giving this one out for quite a while, and the recipient's closet's gotta be overloaded with these, right? Well, this year we're presenting it to
generative AI, and the developers who hide the fact they used it. That's right, AI is here to make you question if that piece of art is a beautiful rendition of several hours of a team's hard work and integrity, or the result of one person typing trash into garbage to generate waste. It kills the environment, puts people out of a job, can co-opt art styles, and generates something actual human labor took decades to improve. It undoubtedly deserves this award. James is probably perturbed he didn't get to say his iconic "loot boxes are faff" line, so we'll turn it to him for a second.
No, honestly, well done. Heartily delivered and well deserved. We just need something that has the same ring as loot boxes or shit.
I got it. Generative AI will destroy the environment and sever your perception of reality.
Seems a bit wordy.
We'll work on it for next year's award, unfortunately.
I don't have incredible or discerning taste sometimes, but this year I played some seriously good games among the swamp of whatever. Bollock's Pit, Tales of Grace's F Remastered, Spiritfall again, even the Gal Guardian sequel was a damn good game. But one of them stood out among the rest as both a surprise and a game that will become the benchmark by which I judge all other games in the genre. Atelier Yumiya, Alchemist of Memories in the Envision Land. I have never played an Atelier game. I barely heard of this series before 2025, but a trailer happened to appear as a YouTube ad before another trailer I was going to watch, and I was immediately taken by the world, which looked vast, the combat, which looked flashy and impactful, and the motorcycle. I'm not sure why the motorcycle was so fascinating to me, but I think it was the presentation of the trailer itself. We were in the middle of playing Tales of Grace's F Remastered, so I think I felt the anime look of Yumiya would fit nicely into the anime game hunger I was feeling. The characters were distinct and fun. The motorcycle looked sick. The weapons looked unique. I was absolutely in for whatever this game had. Then, I played it. Andy.
What? Why me? Address them. I'm busy not listening to you.
In a year positively glutted with open world games, this is the one single one I recommend you all play, on the Switch if you can, only because that version is mobile so you can play it while shitting. There is no shortage of things to do, it is packed to the brim with enemies, discovery points, things to shoot, materials to gather, side quests, and characters to meet. Combat is seriously fluid and only gets more flashy and interesting as you unlock characters and abilities. Also, every character is their own agent. There's simply no reason to worry about any of them like you would in most RPGs. If you outfit them with weapons and healing accessories, they'll go off on their own in battle and put up decent fights. You can take safety in knowing party members can act independently and will need no intervention from you if they make a mistake in battle. Beyond that, there's the crafting system, which is admittedly very complicated, but the Atelier games are kind of known for the synthesizing, so it makes sense this would be very layered. Eventually, you earn the ability to let the game make the best decisions for materials used, so just let it do that. It's how I got so strong I killed the final boss in about 13 seconds. Then, there's the story. You're not teaming up to kill God or fight some fan service boss at the center of a planet. You're on a journey to find out what happened in a mysterious land where memories become power. The point at which the story took hold for me was when the main character, Yumiya, forgot her mother. This doesn't seem significant, but the land they're in requires the use of memories to allow Yumiya to do things. Memories of the grass, the enemies, the land itself. But in a moment of desperation, she used her own memories and forgot something significant to her. That took hold. The story shifted. Then, as you begin to discover the ancient civilization buried within and how they were attempting to preserve their memories for future generations, everything comes to a head when you enter the final dungeon and the idea that memories don't reflect reality really takes form. To put it simply, a long-revived emperor is attempting to use memories of everything to rebuild his kingdom. What you come to discover is the kingdom is half-baked, there are broken bits of geometry and empty buildings. It's not the same as he remembers because it has been far too long. You are literally fighting enemies in an area half-remembered by somebody else. It's like traveling through a dream. I thought that was incredible.
Dang, James. This feels like one you should have made a separate review for.
I'm not done.
How?
Atelier Yumiya is the benchmark by which I will now judge all other open world games. Ironic I was able to play it before Mario Kart World, Bonanza, and eventually Metroid Prime 4. Yumiya's world is so full and eventful, there are few moments of rest between deciding which question mark you want to walk to next, or the fight you want to attempt, or even the materials you want to synthesize. This game is immensely dense, but it doesn't feel as if any part of it is boring or bloated. There's the right amount of space between what's that moments, and I feel confident saying it's one of the best open world games on the market today. Also, if you get it on the Switch, don't bother using the motorcycle, it doesn't work that well.
James, I just noticed. Your best, worst, and okayest are all open world games.
Ooh.
It's time for my game of the year. And in giving this year's award, I'd like to right a wrong, if you'll allow me. In our previous ReviewMo in the summer, link in the description, I mentioned some aspects of this game weren't blowing me away. But after finishing up my playthrough and going for absolute 100% completion, it's safe to say any and all negatives I had before were wiped clean. My best game of the year is Pipistrello and the Cursed Yo-Yo. Surprise, surprise, Andy likes a game that looks like Zelda. A top-down action game with pixel graphics and a pumping primary attack. Yeah, well maybe I love it because it's great! Pipistrello is an absolutely incredibly well-designed game. It's one of the best top-down games I've ever played, and if you think it fits in the Metroidvania genre the same way Unsighted does, then it's one of the best Metroidvanias I've ever played. Every power in the game, from platforming to puzzle solving to combat, focuses on the yo-yo, and I so appreciate that dedication. Pipit runs around a city gripped at the throat by the corporate owners of a rigged sports arena, a fast food chain serving addictive grease, and a money pit construction site. At one point in the game, your entire goal is to get in front of a line at a convention. It's so delightfully silly and yet so fittingly bleak for a game lampooning such displays of concentrated greed. There's also the badge system. Where it might seem pretty normal at first, one special difference is the fact you can upgrade badges to improve their performance. But beyond that are these extra super special badges. These ones flat out tell the player, these will break the game. That's awesome. To read that sentence for the first time made me question if I was dreaming. And the game isn't kidding either. Using these badges will fundamentally change your gameplay. More games should have apparent debug modes integrated directly into the player's options. Something I mentioned back in the summer I didn't enjoy was the upgrade system. To gain a permanent increase in power, you must enter a contract, the cost of which can only be paid off with new money. The weight of that debt will cause Pipit to be literally weaker, losing health or some other stat. From a gameplay perspective, it is annoying, because it can feel like you're just treading water. But thematically, it's absolutely brilliant, because that's what debt feels like. Trying to get ahead just saddles you with debt, and even when you pay it off, your reward is just more opportunities for debt. But above all of that, yes, all of that, what I appreciate most about Pipistrello is its accessibility menu. You can change and adjust all kinds of things in here. It feels just shy of a New Game Plus menu where you can unlock all the stupid stuff for your second playthrough. Does that make Pipistrello an honorary Tales of remaster? In this menu, you can turn off fall damage, adjust your max health and badge points, and change how much money is dropped in all different scenarios. If it ever feels a bit unbalanced, you can fiddle with the numbers whenever you want. For my playthrough, I turned off fall damage because it's a pet peeve of mine, and then after the final boss, boosted my BP so I could run around at max power. It was incredible, and I feel such joy that I was allowed to do that without using mods or hacks or whatever. Pipistrello is $20. You can get it physically on the Switch. Play it! It's my best game of the year, and I think it could easily be yours too.
Oh my goodness. We've done it. Every game in the second half of the year and our Games of the Year show. We hope you enjoyed our elongated show, the special guests, and all the surprises we hid in here. What were some of your best, worst, and okayest games of 2025? Let us know in the comments. Be sure to check out all the links in the description. There's a lot of them. Thank you all so much for watching, and we look forward to another year of games, reviewing them, and more ReviewMo in 2026.